Hey guys, so I received another review sample from Emax. This is the Easy Pilot Pro, nice box with basically everything you need. And obviously this is aiming at beginners because getting into FPV is still a bit painful because you need to get so much stuff, batteries, chargers, quad receiver, radio, and doing all this research about what fits with what, which receiver is compatible with which radio, what sort of charger do I need, does it come with an AC adapter, and so on and so on, can be quite annoying. So isn't it nice to just get everything you need in one box, really including all the necessary stuff to get into FPV? And this is actually exactly what this is. Now, generally, the disadvantage of these boxes is that usually this is more simpler, cheaper stuff that you're not going to stick with for longer periods of time. You'll probably move to more high-end equipment. But if you just want to try out FPV and see if it's something for you, this is a pretty decent way to do it. So let's unbox this and let's see what is inside. Alright, so these are the contents all lined up. Now, I spared you going through the process of me taking this out of the plastic wraps and so on, so I just lined it all up in here. We have the quad with the radio controller. These are the goggles. There's some spare props, some tools, USB-C, micro USB connector, and a little manual here for the radio controller, which actually doesn't explain what the aux switches do, which is unfortunate. It just shows you how the trim buttons and the mode switching work, which is something that you don't really need. So it's a pity they didn't add the information what the aux switches actually do. To know what they do, you'll have to go to the manual with the QR code. But that's already everything that's in the box, plus a charger for the battery they included. There's only one battery in here, which is a pity. Not sure why you would only include one battery, because that's like 2 or 3 minutes of flight time. Why not just right away make it 3 or 4? That makes sense. Missed opportunity here to make this a really complete package in my opinion. And there's this adapter here to mount the screen on the radio controller. It goes in here and the screen actually detaches. You can mount it here on the radio. So let's go into a bit more detail about these things here. Alright, let's start with the goggle. Now the goggle does look decently well made in terms of quality, actually quite fine. The annoying thing is, while it does look nice and compact, now this is not how you're using it. What you actually have to do is push these little things here on the side and pull this sort of insert out. There's 3 positions. For me, the furthest position, it actually barely works to get the screen in focus, and it's a bit annoying to get it there. Right, this is how the goggle works. Apart from that, it's fine, straps onto your head, and the screen is detachable. Interestingly, my screen arrived slightly scratched here, which was underneath the protective wrap, which is sort of interesting. But it's a quite significant scratch. Not sure if it's going to be visible, but it's scratched. And unfortunately, they removed the DVR. So it did have a DVR in the previous version, which was very, very bad. I mean, it really barely worked. Now there's no DVR at all. That's also a way to solve the problem. But notice that this has no way of recording your video in any way, unfortunately. And here, a little standard thread to mount this on any tripod. And that's basically the goggle. So since for me the ergonomics of the goggle are not optimal and I have a hard time focusing the screen even in the furthest setting, what I'll probably do is mount this on the radio controller like this. No, I think I'll have to try it. Yeah, I'll have to. This seems to work. Yes, it's not super stable, but it seems okay. So this is probably how I'll use it. Might also be good for people when you get sort of vertigo or get a bit sick when having goggles on or you're not used to it. Having a screen like this might be more comfortable for you. Also, if you're used to flying Mavic drones or any other type of video drone, this might be more how you're used to flying if you just mount it on there. So it's nice to have the option. Now let's talk about the radio controller. So this is a pretty simple radio controller, but it does the trick. I mean, ergonomics are fine. It looks very boxy, but it actually feels surprisingly nice holding it in your hands. You can thumb, you can pitch, this all works very well. The ergonomics are, for some reason, better than you'd expect. There's a sort of notch here in the back where your hands really can nicely grip it. So this works. Unfortunately, it has the 16 protocol or the 8 protocol. I think it's set up on the 8 initially, so it will have very poor range, but that's also not what this quad is made for. Then we have some trim switches here, which you usually don't need on a quad. We have 4. These are 2-position switches, 2 2-position switches, and 2 3-position switches. And that's basically all. This is the radio controller. So this is something you're not going to use on any other quad. Probably you're going to upgrade this if you stick with FPV, but for the beginning it's fine. It also does come with the battery built in already. There's an 18650 in there. You can just charge it with the USB-C. So this is decent to get you started, I'd say. All right, now last but not least, the quad. So this is an evolution of the good old Emax Tiny Hawk, which has been around as long as I've been in FPV, so for years. This thing has evolved slightly over time. It got a bit more robust. You can adjust the camera angle, but I think the electronics and motors are still the same. So this is sort of a really proven concept. These things are very robust. You can fly them indoors, outdoors. Performance is absolutely decent and fine for such a whoop-like quad. So this is for getting started. This is nice. This thing, you're not going to break this quickly. You're not going to hurt yourself or do any damage to your furniture. So nice little indoor and outdoor quad to get you started. But we'll take it out in a second and see how this one flies. But I don't think there will be big surprises because this is the same thing Emax has been doing for years. All right, so to conclude on the contents of the set, I would say this is really a decent starting point for FPV. Now, of course, these goggles, this plastic thing here, this doesn't feel super nice. I don't think this is perfectly well thought out. This is maybe the weak point here, but on the other hand, I mean, this entire set costs less than most of the premium goggles. So the controller is absolutely fine. The screen here is fine, especially if you just mount the two together like this. This should absolutely get you flying. This is a good, well-proven quad that has been out for years. The only weak point for me in this kit is really that there's not enough batteries, which you'll have to purchase separately, so don't forget that. And then basically we're all good to go. And another really nice thing is that when you've gone through the pain of setting up your first FPV quad and how much time and watching YouTube tutorials it took you to just get this thing flying, this is a completely different experience, because here there's 2 buttons basically, one here on the radio controller, one on the screen, just to get this all on. And then all that is left to do after charging the batteries is inserting it into the quad, connecting the PH 2.0 here, and it just works. So you're basically, I think you should already arm now. That's probably not at the right angle. Right, as you can see, this already arms, beeper works. So this is all completely set up. Video signal is there. Hello. This is all completely set up and working, and this is something that is actually quite rare in FPV. That stuff just works right out of the box. This works perfectly right out of the box. It's already connected. It's already set up. All you need to do is read the manual and figure out which switch here does what, and basically you can get this thing flying and in the air, which is what I'm going to do now to see how it performs.
Alright, so I went out to the parking garage to test this thing. Nice environment to see how well the receiving works in the FPV system. This is actually the first time that I'm trying to fly with a screen. So let's see how it goes. actually not too bad. I mean, I would prefer having my goggles, but it's sort of funny to see the quad fly right in front of myself at the same time. Now you can see that these are all linear antennas and not polarized, so there's quite a lot of multipath unfortunately in here. This thing does fly very nicely. Pretty good tune. I feel like it got better than the earlier versions, to be honest. Really quite nice. Nice little toy, and actually, I mean, I was just super skeptical going in with the screen thing. But I really didn't like the goggles last time I tried them, so using it this way this time, it actually works pretty much fine. I mean, it's not as immersive as with some decent goggles, and I'm sort of missing my Orcas on this one, but I mean, for getting started, especially for people that don't like having the goggles on their head, makes you feel weird. I mean, this actually works decently. I might need a strap for the controller because it's weird to hold it like that. And that's about it. So 3.4 volts, so it's actually time to land. 1 minute 40. It's actually not that much flight time. Alright, so I would say in an environment like this here, you can see that the receivers on here, and the antennas especially, the linear antennas aren't performing that great. It's quite a lot of noise and multipath, but it works decently and it actually flies very nicely in a tight space here, which is not easy to navigate. So good thing for a beginner, very smooth tune and nice. And well, I would say in conclusion, really not a bad set, especially for the price. Nice to get everything you need to get started. But obviously there's some downsides just caused by this rather cheap price, and especially the goggles are just something that is probably something you're going to use for a few weeks or months and then upgrade to something different. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye bye.